saw his face in the rock and I slapped him across the chops. And I was like, what have I done?
He was annoyingly strong for someone that looked like a beanpole.
His body was horrific, like
Yeah.
a melted wheelie bin, but he was so fit. Hello, welcome to Hits Different. We are joined by an absolute bulldozer, a lad that I used to love playing with, hated playing against. He's now playing his trade in the south of France. Billy Vunipola joins us on Hits Different. Billy, firstly, mate, you look glorious. How's that French life treating you, mate? It looks like you're doing well over there.
No, it's good. Obviously, everyone talks about the pain au chocolat and croissant, but I think the sun has been really nice for my body, especially my broken arms. And I think, like, with the sun comes like a healthier diet. I didn't know I would get into that, but eating salads and stuff is good for you. And it's nicer when it's hot. It's nicer when it's hot. It's hard to eat a Greek salad when it's cold.
That's so true. We're going to ask you to do your ultimate 15. So the best 15 players you've played with and against. Whenever you're ready, mate, start wherever you want. Please take us through it.
I've always thought about this, and the biggest thing I didn't want to do was offend people.
Yeah.
But I try to keep it as try to be honest as I could, as honest as I could. Anyway, here we go. Number one, my brother, Marco.
Yep. Can you talk us through a little bit, like, Bill, obviously you must have been asked this 100 times, but what is it like to have done the journey of England and Saracens and winning everything that you did? Like, how cool is that to do it with your older brother? Like, something that not many people get to do, but how cool was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. The funny thing about us is I look at someone like Ben Curry and Tom Curry, right? Their relationship very, very different to me and my brothers. And if you ask them the same question, I think it would be different. For me and my brother, when we won or we did things with the team that we felt like, you know, was awesome, we almost felt like, yeah, so what? This is what we were supposed to do. You know, this is what we trained for when we were 6 and my brother was 8. And we were running on the streets crying. Like, this is, you know, what we worked for. So there was not at one point until I came here that I appreciated what we did until I left.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Because I
mad.
just thought it was like, this is normal. You know, this should be
what we should do.
Yeah. And it's not until I came here that we were talking about finishing top 8 that I was like, hey, top 8?
Sorry?
Sorry.
Pardon?
Yeah, I was like, nah. Anyway, yeah, that's how I would say it. But in terms of doing it with my brother, the best thing I would say is like playing with him and knowing that you and your brother had like a secret code that you could help to unlock other teams, and you knew, you know, what he was going to do. I know people would be like, yeah, they knew that what they were going to do. It's true. You know, I knew how he played. He's my brother. I grew up with him. We watched the same rugby. We talked about rugby all the time. And then just play on the biggest stages. You know, there's times where I'd be like, are you okay? Like, I'd look at him and he's tired. I remember the second test in Australia, 2016. I kicked the ball out just before halftime, and he came over and was like, don't worry. That was probably the only time I can remember my brother showing empathy or like sympathy towards me. Really? And it was because people were watching on TV. Sorry. Right. And he could feel that, you know, that I was under the pump. So it was like his brotherly instincts came to the fore. And those are the things that you can't share with anyone else. That's like true love, you know?
Awesome, man. That's class. It's class.
Yeah. So my brother, one, I have to say Skulk Brits.
Yeah.
Simply because he was way before his time. He was 98 kilos, dripping wet, I think, by scrummage, and he ran fullback from fullback.
Unreal, mate. When you used to put him in the backfield and he'd just come back and carve up like a 15. It's like incredible.
Yeah. And I loved his personality too. In terms of like, before a game, he's always laughing and joking. And there's something in him that just switches. And he's like, he's locked in. He can go from joking around to, you know, knocking people out in the game. And I remember he did it to Nick Wood. Yeah. I was like, what are you doing? I would never do that in a game, but I wouldn't joke around either. So it's like he's got two extremes but somehow he manages to balance them really well.
Yeah, he was unreal, mate. He was unreal. Keep going, bro.
Tired prop, Vincent KOCK. Probably the best scrummaging tired I've ever played with.
Really?
Yeah. Shout out to TT as well. When he was when he was on TT, when the S&C coaches were on him, he was one of the best, but consistently, I would have to say Vincent KOCK. Second row, this was tough because I had to fit 4 into 2. I went Will Skelton, George KRUIS.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about the schnoz, mate. The biggest schnoz in world rugby, George KRUIS. What an operator.
Oh, exactly. Like, we know because we see the things that people don't see.
Yeah.
You know, and that's KRUIS though. It's the way he carries himself on the pitch is how he carries himself on a night out. You know,
yeah.
he's in the shadows. He's doing his best work in the shadows, you know, and he's letting other people flourish.
Yeah.
And I remember playing with him. I never really felt tired because him and Maro would do a lot of the hard work, and myself, you know, I would do all the fancy stuff. So, you know, me, my brother, and Skulkbridge would do all the fancy carrying, but you've also got to complement that with people like KRUIS, you know, who's willing to be selfless, and he's got an unbelievable engine on him. But yeah, like I said, he does his best work in the shadows.
Yeah, legend. Will Skelton, the biggest man in the world.
I mean, since he's gone to La Rochelle and he's got that trust from them that he probably didn't have at Saracens, he's just become an even better player than what he was when he left us in 2020. And you've seen it, you know. People don't really want to say one person's changed a culture, but since he's gone there, they won 2 Champions Cup. So yeah, I mean, he's very different in the top 14. He's a big operator in the top 14.
Yeah,
massive
legend. That's a great combination, mate. Did you play in that Saracens game at home where he did something to me at a rock? He like clocked me over the head or something. It was like hitting a kid, and I was like, "What are you doing, mate?" And then I was like, "I'll get you back." And I saw his face in the rock, and I slapped him across the chops. And I was like, "What have I done? I've just hit the biggest guy I've ever seen in my life," and he just laughed at me. He just laughed, and I was like, "Okay."
That's the thing with Skelters. I reckon he's one of the nicest guys I've met. But at the same time, he's got to switch when it comes to the game. He either tries to get under your skin like he did with you, or he'll actually try and hurt you, which is why
I'm glad it was the first one.
He normally picks on people his own size. So
I like his style, mate. I like his style. Okay, that's awesome front 5, mate. Back row, your expertise.
This was tough. I went with Maro at 6.
Yeah, Maro at 6. Nice.
Well, I had to fit him into my team somehow. So I put him at 6. Still remember him in 2019 with Sarries, having to move there because of Will and KRUIS, and did a great job. He's just Maro, isn't he? He does his job unbelievably well, consistently all the time. So what more can you ask of him?
Yeah. Now, like Lions captain, Bill, did that surprise you at all? You're always thinking like this kid's born to be a leader and lead big teams.
No, I mean, especially after the way he captained England Six Nations.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big surprise, no. And you know what he's like. He's very. He carries himself with a lot of swagger, but at the same time, he is very focused on his craft.
Yeah.
You know, whether he's preparing himself for a game or studying. You know, I don't know how he does it because I can't do both.
No.
And he's done it his whole career. And that's something that really impresses me about him is how diligent he is with stuff off the pitch.
Yeah. What a boy. Yeah. Going to be a big summer for him as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Just because of how we play in France, I went with Michael Rhodes as my other back rower.
Yeah, awesome.
He's again like KRUIS, very unassuming bloke, but
Yeah.
put himself about in terms of big hits.
Yeah.
And again, rucks, all the dirty stuff. He's always into it. And again, he's got a bit of a switch to him. I remember he got a red card just before he came to Saracens.
Yeah.
On someone, it's not a good thing. The only reason I'm saying it is because these guys have got something about them that, you know, they will do anything, almost anything to win.
Yeah. Mate, you boys in your pomp when you had Rosie in the back row who would just go around like doing his business, and you almost he probably was not underestimated in terms of your lads, but for the rest of the league, do you know what I mean? He's probably one of those guys you had to play with.
Yeah.
But every time we played him, like he wanted us. Do you know what I mean? Like he wanted to come and get you and to hurt you. And then after the game, first one to give you a cuddle or never be with. Like what a legend. What's he doing now?
He's living in a farm in South Africa with his family.
Awesome.
His family owns a resort on a farm.
Nice.
So yeah, he's back in South Africa and bringing up his two little boys.
Yes.
I think I'm right saying. And yeah, last time I saw him was at a wedding maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think he's like off the grid. He's not far off it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm off all socials and stuff, so
yeah,
I don't really know what's going on other than what's on my WhatsApp, which is nice.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Who's your number 8?
This was a tough one. It was between Benno, Jackson Ray, but I went for Jackson Ray just because he's a Swiss Army knife for, you know, he played every single position.
Yeah.
Selfless player. Played a lot of games for us. I think he was over 300.
Yeah.
And played with a lot of good players and yet never made England. Not my choice. But someone that would make our team, you know. If you make a team, you're not far off being an international, which is what we had back in 2018, 2019. So yeah, I've got to put Jackson Ray in there.
Awesome. But I love Billy. Like this is what I love about you is I said to you with or against, and you've gone with 8 players that you played with, which I love about you because I know like how much the boys mean to you, and this probably all makes sense that you've picked the boys that you've gone to battle with. So that's class, mate. What a pack. Backline, bro. Here we go.
Well, yeah. I'll just say before we get to the end, I didn't really pick anyone I played against because I don't really remember anyone.
Yeah, good.
Number 9 was pretty tough, but I took it out of everyone's hands and gave it to Neil de KOCK.
Yeah, nice.
For a few reasons. When I first came in, he's a very nice guy, very down to earth. I didn't know that he was a legend in South Africa, like a Springbok, and that's how unassuming he was. I think he was 36 at the time. Him and Charlie Hoshin were winning the fitness test.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, when I'm that age, I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's something that really impressed me, again, was how competitive he was.
Yeah.
Because at that time, it was the year before they were, I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but they were flicking a coin for who would start between him and Wiggy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Neil de KOCK, and he had a very good kicking game as well.
Yeah, mate. I used to love playing against Neil, but hated at the same time because I admired him massively. Like, I loved watching him play. I tried and steal a few things from his game, but he would always, like if I did something good against him, the next ruck he'd be like, "Danny, keep doing that. Like keep backing his." And like he was almost like helping me on the other side, which I loved. Bill, honestly, I then kind of used to try and do the same. So if I was playing against a younger lad, I would always say to them, just back yourself, keep doing it. Do you know what I mean? And that's something that always stuck with me is after playing against him. And then yeah, when Wiggy used to come along, Wiggy used to say he used to hate it, didn't he? Because Neil was so fit, and Wiggy always backed himself to be the fittest. But you had two unbelievable nines there, with then Spenno underneath, just learning off them, like three incredible
Yeah,
nines. Yeah, what a player.
that's a funny story because that's him.
Yeah,
10, obviously Faz.
yeah. How good to have him back, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I said it to some of my boys here. I was like, mate, if you're going to go to France, go to the south. You know,
Yeah,
you can't go to France and go to Paris. This is my personal opinion.
yeah,
It's just like going from London to London, you know?
yeah,
But I don't know. He's, I think Harpenden's far enough south, you know, from up north for him. So
yeah.
for him to go back is good. I hope it works out.
How good was Owen day to day club level, and how important was he to help lift all those trophies?
For me, like I said right at the start, I never had to be in this zone of, you know, making sure that standards were kept up or carrying myself in a certain way because I was leading by example. Because I always looked up to people like Faz
Yeah,
and people like Brad and people like my brother and stuff. But Faz, probably more so, just because, you know, day to day, he was just so consistent.
yeah,
He knew what he wanted from the team, he knew what he wanted from himself. People could see it in his actions. And when he talked, he was just like, oh, yeah, fair enough. I mean, he's doing it. So,
yeah,
and the biggest thing for me was how consistent he was. Probably the last year he struggled a lot with injuries, and we didn't even know. You know, we didn't know until he went to wrestling. Well, I
yeah,
didn't either. Oh, actually, the semi-final against Northampton where he couldn't kick the ball. I was like, why isn't he kicking? So I was hurt.
yeah,
No, didn't even know.
yeah,
But that just shows how much he's willing to give up, willing to sacrifice, and yeah, he's a very good player, and
yeah.
why I picked him as my 10.
Awesome, man. No, I think I agree with everything you said. I think he's also like you said there, the one of the toughest blokes I've ever met, like
Yeah,
mentally and physically. Would just he never asked you to do something he wouldn't go and do himself. If he's screaming going at someone, it's because he wants to go and hit him. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah, great for the Prem that he's back.
Mm.
And I still think, mate, there's an international, there's a few more international games with his name on, mate, if he's up for it.
100%. I think he's still driven by wanting to win the World Cup.
Yeah,
You know,
amazing.
the two last World Cups was as close as you can get, and for him, it's like it's too close to give up. I think.
Yeah,
I think him and oh, you can always do with someone like him in and around the squad, but for him, he has to play. You know,
yeah.
and for me, he does. But that's my opinion. I'm not a coach.
I like your opinion, Bill. I like your opinion, and I agree.
Yeah.
Uh, awesome 9-10, mate. Keep going, mate. Wingers or you centers, you choose.
I wrote it down as centres. I went with Brad Barrett
Yeah,
and Duncan Taylor.
nice.
Um, they complemented each other really well. Brad was probably one of, again, the toughest guys I've come across. Very well spoken. A lot of people would say he was limited, but for me, he did everything that he wanted from a 12.
Yeah,
He's the 12 that everyone wants right now.
yeah, he is. Yeah,
You know, I remember a move against Clermont we did in the 2017 final. We had a 7-man off the top line out, and the call was to play Brad short of Faz, and two players from the line out cleared the ruck.
yeah,
I was like, is that really a play? And they were like, yeah, we'll play the phase after. And it was when Ashley got pulled down by a Bendon in the corner.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was like second minute in the game. But in my head, I was like, I don't think many players could run and play like that, except for Brad. And then on the other side of that, in terms of his defensive qualities, we all know how good he is. And just as him as a captain, he was very relaxed, very calm. He trusted the group a lot. And yeah, that's why I'd probably pick him as my captain too.
yeah. Nice quality. What a boy as well.
Yeah, Duncan, again, one of those players that probably wouldn't be as appreciated anywhere else. but for the team that, you know, I played with. I didn't really know Duncan until I went to Saracens.
Yeah.
And they called him Super Dunks. And I was like, nah, why do they call him this for? Turns out everyone would run around like 6 or 7K in a fitness, you know, session.
Yeah.
Me, less, probably 5, but this guy would hit like 9, 10.
Really?
Where is he running? And that's where the name came from. And then in the games, he was just always in clips that, you know, Guzzy and Arsonson would put up for work off the ball.
Yeah.
And that was something that they would rave about at the club at the time. And
Yeah.
he was always at the top. Always at the top.
Wasn't it one of his last games? Did he do a charge? Was it a charge down for?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that almost like, almost showed like the little things that people don't see. Do you know what I mean? Like the effort things that he would always do, and he got his rewards.
Yeah.
Great boy as well, isn't he?
This is a good team too for a night out.
Yeah, good. Just needs you in there with them, doesn't it?
Wingers. Oh, I had a tough time with this. I had Liam Williams, Stretz, Scux, Sean Maitland, Chris Wiles, and Ashy.
Yeah.
Went for Liam Williams.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just like
good at everything, isn't he?
Yeah. He was annoyingly strong for someone that looked like a beanpole.
Yeah.
You know, like, and he would back himself too, and he would always turn up. To be fair to him, he was a bit pick and choose, you know, like would pull an injury just before the Six Nations.
Yeah.
But then at the run-in at the end of the season, he was always there.
Yeah. Gotcha. Big game player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one of your teammates I had a scrap with actually, and we both got binned at the same time. I think it was at West Ham, maybe, I think. And we were just arm in arm laughing on the way off. Yeah, it was quite funny.
That's the thing with Sanjay. He's very nice off it.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, I'm going to have to go with Sean Maitland because he'll watch this and get annoyed if I don't pick him.
Yeah, good call.
But again, he was very good. Very, very good.
Turned up at big games massively, didn't he?
Yeah.
What a finisher.
His nickname is Scux because he's a good-looking cat.
Yeah. Good-looking rooster. He really was.
Which brings me along nicely to the last guy who's not very good-looking, but backs himself, Goody.
Yeah, that's the best description of him I think I've heard, mate. Jumanji boy, Goody.
Oh, yeah. Again, if it was up to me, he'd play more international, but it wasn't. And we did well with or without him. But in terms of what I played with at club, just like really safe, but also like I didn't understand how smart he was until I went to the club again. In terms of like tactical nous, and you know what he's like. He's like soft as anything. So he's like doing what can make him make less tackles, make less carries into contact. So when you're thinking about that before you make a decision, you're always going to make the best decisions. Yeah. No, Goody was very smart, deceptively slow, but made up for it with how fast he was. And also he had a massive engine on him.
Yeah, he looked horrific, didn't he? Like his body was horrific, but like a melted wheelie bin. But he was so fit, wasn't he?
Do you remember the police? What was that thing we did in 2015? We with those shield. I actually rated him for that. I was like, Goody, fair play.
Just talk us through what happened again, Bill.
What were we doing? We were running a 1K, was it? 1K?
It was some sort of riot thing, wasn't it? We had to wear riot gear and run a K with Lanny. Another one of Lanny's bright ideas, wasn't it?
With Lanny, I mean, I don't want to bag him up. This is a funny story. Anyway, we're all carrying like big shields, you know, the ones that all the way down to your feet. You remember that?
Yeah.
Of those petrol bombs.
Yeah.
You know, they're dangerous because they might spray up from underneath.
Yeah.
For some reason we had to do a test that I don't think the police did it. And we were running 1K, and I remember running it and struggling. And I was like, I can't make this.
Yeah.
I was very close to the back, but there were others behind me. I think it was Brooksy and Yardi and
Yeah.
and Goody. What is Goody doing back there? Turns out Goody, he is a very good guy, was helping Brooksy and Yardi, encouraging them, because I think we were on the time. We had a certain time. And we get in, Goody's got 2 shields, Yardi's got his hands on his knees, and Brooksy's like, you know what Brooksy's like, I think he needed his pump or something. And then Yardi's like, bruv, with his deep voice, he's like, bruv, I nearly died in it. I was like, mate, you didn't even carry your shield. And Goody's just like batting it off like he was like, you know, I'm helping my teammates.
Bill, what a team. And yeah, I love the fact you've done it with players that you have played with. Bill, what a team. Thanks for joining us. It's different. That is Billy Vunipola's Ultimate 15.